Part 3. Tokyo's Most Affectionate. Author, Wodada Shuchu Wujin. Chapter 21. Raffle. Kurosawa Hikaru was a little surprised by the appearance of this function. He originally thought that if he wanted to get rewards, he had to follow a formula. Dating tasks, dating funds for 24-hour experience cards, complete tasks, permanent rewards. As for the appearance of achievements, he was a little surprised, but it was also expected. Because he had felt before that the main purpose of the system was to become a perfect male god. There is a difference between male gods and sea kings. Sea kings are playboys, or time management masters, eating in the bowl and looking at the pot, hugging this girl today, and picking up that girl tomorrow. Male gods are completely different. For women, they are the men they yearn for and admire in their hearts, but they can't get them. It's a lucky coincidence. After thinking, Kurosawa Hikaru glanced sideways, turned around and turned to face Yayuki with his back to him, and said secretly. In fact, he really wanted to kiss her just now, but he was afraid of accidentally firing, so he restrained himself. After only knowing each other for 24 hours, he developed to a home run. He didn't play that much. System, how do I draw? Putting aside distracting thoughts, Kurosawa Hikaru refocused on the present. 3 draws, although he didn't know what the rewards were, it was very exciting. After all, the ability currently given to him by the system was an entry-level singing voice, comparable to the singing skills of professional singers. As he asked in his heart, a beam of golden light fell from the sky. Following that, a half-meter-sized gasopon machine slowly descended. This gasopon machine has 4 layers in the upper part, all of which are filled with sealed gasopons. And in the middle layer, there is an entrance for inserting paper rolls. Do you want to start the draw? With the appearance of the gasopon machine, the voice of the system sounded. Yes. Choose the number of times. 3 times. Kurosawa Hikaru didn't hesitate much, after all, the number of draws was easy to come by. And it was his first time to draw a lottery, and he didn't know what the rewards were. Anyway, he would try it first. Although he agreed straightforwardly, he still tensed up when he saw 3 paper coupons appear out of thin air and put them into the coin slot. The next moment, the handle next to the gasopon machine was bent down without anyone touching it. The gasopon machine started, and all the gasopons on the top 4 layers started rolling. Soon, Kurosawa Mitsuru saw the gasopon falling into the hole in the corner. Congratulations to the host, this lottery won entry-level leg skills, entry-level parkour, and mastery-level archery. The 4th layer at the bottom is entry-level, and the 3rd layer is mastery. Kurosawa Mitsuru, who was watching the lottery process the whole time, heard these words and gained something, and had a little idea. Before he could think for long, he was suppressed by 3 strange feelings, and all his thoughts were suppressed. Suddenly, he felt that a lot of things were stuffed into his head, that was knowledge, skills, and experience. His arms, legs, and even his waist, chest, eyes, it seemed that something was emerging from his body. Maybe he was lying there motionless, but his brain was telling him. He had practiced leg skills for more than 10 years, and his leg muscles were very strong, even harder, and very flexible. If he fought, he would definitely be a master. He has practiced parkour for more than 10 years, and his muscles are strong, and he has various running styles. As for the master-level archery, his fingers trembled slightly, and his fingers, wrists, and even arms became strong, and his back was surging, as if he had been practicing archery since the moment he was born. Incredibly, the dark ceiling, which was originally turned off with the lights covered by the curtains, suddenly became much clearer in Kurosawa's eyes. It was as if his eyes had adapted to the darkness. In just a few minutes, Kurosawa couldn't help but reach out and touch his chest after digesting the 3 rewards. Hard and elastic. The system's reward is so scary. Kurosawa was shocked to find that he suddenly had chest muscles. He usually exercises, such as running, to keep his body and mind healthy. However, he didn't go through professional fitness, so he didn't have much muscle. But with the blessing of the system reward, his body became stronger directly. This is an improvement from the inside out. Not only strength, but also his cardiopulmonary function has become stronger, and even makes him feel particularly energetic. How can this be called becoming a male god? This is directly becoming a god. I just don't know if there are superpowers. Realizing this situation, Kurosawa Hikaru couldn't help thinking. There are no superpowers in the system rewards. Following his thoughts, the system denied it. Okay, but getting rewards makes you stronger, which can be considered a superpower. The fantasy was broken, but Kurosawa Hikaru was not dissatisfied, but comforted himself. Immediately, he calmed down and carefully absorbed the knowledge, experience, and skills brought by the 3 rewards this time. In fact, he wanted to jump out of bed and try his leg skills and parkour. But he was not at home, but sleeping on the same bed with others, so he still had to consider it. Dingling. The night was silent until the morning, when the mobile phone alarm broke everything. However, the ringtone sounded for just 5 seconds and then stopped. I can't sleep at all. As the ringing sounded, Itchy Nose Yuki suddenly opened her eyes were bloodshot and she was in a complicated mood. Although she thought she could fall asleep in the same bed with someone of the opposite sex, she simply couldn't. Moreover, the person sleeping next to him is a handsome guy like Kurosawa Hikaru, which makes people imagine him wildly. Brother Guang, what time is it? At this moment, Yuki Itchy Nose felt the bed move and asked. At 6 o'clock, you can go back to sleep. I have to go home and change clothes first. Kurosawa Hikaru had already woken up, his bare feet on the carpet. So early. Itchy Nose Yuki was a little surprised. There is a morning class today. You have to be in class before 8:30. Kurosawa Hikaru nodded and explained. Class doesn't start until 8:30, so there's still a lot of time, right? It's better to have more time than less time. Can you leave at 7 o'clock? Okay, are you still sleeping? Kurosawa thought for a while and nodded. I'm not going to sleep anymore. I need to put on makeup. Yuki Itchy Nose shook her head. I plan to do some morning exercise. Morning exercise? Kurosawa nodded, and then walked to a relatively open place. After holding it in all night last night, I finally got the chance. When he came to the empty space, Kurosawa first moved his legs and feet, then stood with one foot fixed and began to raise his right foot. The body is slightly tilted, and the right leg continues to rise until it is over the head. In this situation, as he expected, the flexibility and strength of the leg skills have been strengthened. Woo! As he passed over his head, Kurosawa Hikaru's tight right leg slammed down quickly, hovering suddenly before landing on the ground. That steady and powerful kick made a sound like a whip. Next to him, Yuki Itchy Nose was dumbfounded when he saw this steady and powerful kick. This flexibility is even more exaggerated than hers, comparable to the girls in the school's ballet club. What's even more frightening is that this powerful and heavy kick looks very fierce at first glance. If you were to fight with someone, how fierce would it be? Tokyo's Most Affectionate. Author, Wodada Shuchu Wujin. Chapter 22. Brother Hikaru, do you think you are good at fighting? Itchy Nose Yuki couldn't help but asked. I have never fought with anyone. Kurosawa tested his power and shook his head. In this life, he has decided to be a top student since he was a child, study hard, and never fight with anyone. Then why does your kick look so powerful? It's for the sake of good health. Naturally, it was impossible for Kurosawa Hikaru to say that he was rewarded by the system, so he could only find a random explanation. Awesome. Yuki Itchy Nose's little hands were in time and she couldn't help but clap. That kick just now looked really strong. Maybe she hasn't fought with anyone, but after all, in the Spice Girls group, the other three sisters have bad boyfriends. So she had seen a fight and knew how powerful Sato, Yamashita, and Hinata were. But Brother Guang's kick just now gave her a feeling. If there was a fight, Hikaru might be stronger than Hinata and the others. Because although Hinata and the others seemed to have a bit of posture and a bit of skill, there wasn't much. I started my morning exercise. Kurosawa Hikaru wanted to test his power, so he said. As soon as these words came out, Ichino's Yuki also realized that he hoped that he would not disturb him, and nodded obediently. Immediately afterwards, Kurosawa Hikaru began to move his muscles and bones, trying out leg techniques, postures, breathing methods, and the force-generating techniques brought by parkour. It's a pity that the limited environment prevents him from completely letting go and trying parkour. As for archery, there are even less conditions. Although he didn't have a bow and arrow in his hand, his standing posture became straight, and powerful. After watching for more than 10 minutes, Yuki Ichino's went from shock to numbness, then got up to dress up. Maybe when you go to school, you can't dress casually like you are outside. You must wear school uniforms. But even so, as long as the makeup is not very heavy, you can still wear it. After exercising for half an hour, Kurosawa took a shower and washed away the sweat. At 6:50, Kurosawa Hikaru walked out of the bathroom. As soon as he walked out, he saw Xiao Yuki in JK uniform, sitting on the bed and looking over here, as if waiting. What's wrong? As their eyes met, Kurosawa Hikaru noticed that she was a little shy and asked. Brother Guang, can you help me plant a strawberry plant? Ichino's Yuki was a little shy when he stared at her, but she still made up her mind and spoke. Okay, where can I plant it? Kurosawa Hikaru realized that she wanted marks and evidence, and nodded. Help people to the end, not to mention this is not a trouble, but a benefit. Here. Ichino's Yuki raised her right hand and poked her shoulder, which was covered by her uniform. If you can't see the strawberry, wouldn't it be meaningless? Kurosawa Hikaru glanced at it, a little puzzled. Although no one can see it, Aoi and the others have a chance to see it. That's true. Is the shoulder okay? Certainly. Kurosawa Hikaru nodded. Compared to his neck, his shoulders were more relaxed. You are facing the angle. After deciding on the matter, Ichino's Yuki took a deep breath, mustered up her courage, and immediately pulled off the clothes on her shoulders with her hands, revealing her white and smooth beaded shoulders. What angle do you want? Come here and sit down first. Yuki Ichino's patted the bed next to her. Kurosawa nodded, walked over and sat down next to her. Immediately, Ichino's Yuki turned around and sat directly on his lap. Then, she hugged Kurosawa Hikaru and leaned her body against him. The softness was directly attached to Kurosawa's body, which was extremely wonderful. Just plant it like this. After choosing the posture and body position, Yuki Ichino's put her head on his shoulder and whispered. By now, Kurosawa Hikaru had probably guessed, this was a scenario she had conceived in order to grow strawberries. In response, Kurosawa Hikaru glanced at the snow-white shoulders close at hand, opened his mouth and nibbled on it, and then started sucking. Smooth, soft, her skin is very good and even smells of fragrance. Ichino's Yuki's delicate body trembled, as if she was feeling pleasure, and she couldn't help but let out a low moan. This low moan is like the temptation of a fairy, captivating and tempting people to fall. Kurosawa Hikaru couldn't help but stretched out his hands to hold her slender waist. Ah! Ichino's Yuki felt a little itchy when her waist was touched, so she twisted her body and hugged his back tightly. As soon as the sound came out, Kurosawa's body became completely hot. After a full minute, Kurosawa Hikaru reluctantly retracted his mouth. Although it was over, Ichino's Yuki didn't have the strength to move at all. She lay limply on top of him, her face flushed, and she exhaled like an orchid. "It's done." Kurosawa Hikaru lowered his eyes and looked at the strawberry marks on her snow-white shoulders. He felt a little agitated, but he still said, "Leaving your own unique mark on a beautiful woman's body is very exciting and gives you a sense of satisfaction." This seemed to tell everyone that this woman belonged to him alone. Ichi-nose Yuki buried her head on his shoulder, smelling his fragrance. Her brain felt dizzy, her body became even softer, and she made no sound. Kurosawa Hikaru noticed that Yuki had been silent, as if he had lowered all his defenses. This situation gave him an impulse in his heart. He could do whatever he wanted to this girl. However, Kurosawa Hikaru suppressed the urge and picked her up and put her next to her. There is no turning back when you draw a bow. If you really succumb to impulse, you may not be able to stop, so you must restrain yourself. Lying on the bed, Yuki Ichi-nose looked a little messy because the clothes on her shoulders were pulled down, which added a bit of charm and temptation. "Everyone is coming soon." Kurosawa Hikaru glanced at her, stood up and walked into the bathroom. Fortunately, he held back last night. Just planting a strawberry made him feel hot all over and it was difficult to calm down. If he had kissed her directly, who knows what would have happened. You know, the night is long, the man and the woman are alone, the fire is burning, and they are all in adolescence, so it is hard to say what happened. As he walked into the bathroom, he was forced to separate and be alone. Brother Guang is so strong, and it tastes so good. Ichi-nose Yuki was lying on the bed, with the back of her hand on her heated forehead, and her mood was hard to calm down. Yesterday at karaoke, although the distance between the two people was very close. But she was wearing perfume after all, so the smell was stronger, and she didn't even notice. Just now when they hugged each other tightly, she realized that Brother Guang's smell was super good. Not long after, the two people packed up their things and left the room. In the lobby on the first floor, 3 other hot girls were already waiting. Different from yesterday's casual clothes, they looked innocent and coquettish in their school uniforms. "Is Kurosawa awake so early?" Shion-ai was a little surprised to see Kurosawa Hikaru walking out of the elevator. "We have morning classes today, where is your boyfriend?" Kurosawa Hikaru nodded, and immediately felt surprised. "Still sleeping," Chiyukoi said calmly. "Absenteeism is a common occurrence for them." Hitomi Matsushita shrugged. Seeing this situation, Kurosawa Hikaru glanced at Yuki Ichi-nose quietly. Judging from their normal attitude, even if he sneaked home last night, he would not be discovered. Could it be that Yuki has bad intentions? Greedy for his body? 2 more are sent here. Please read it, collect it, and vote for recommendation. Please, following up is the most important thing and is the key to being recommended. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Tokyo's Most Affectionate. Author, Wodada Shuchu Wujin. Chapter 23. The streets of Shinjuku are relatively quiet in the morning. That being said, the subway is very busy. On the platform of the subway station, Kurosawa Hikaru separated from the 4 hot girls, and the stations were different. "Brother Hikaru, are you free tonight?" As they parted, Ichi-nose Yuki looked up at him. "I have to tutor tonight, so I won't be free until 11 o'clock." Kurosawa Hikaru thought for a moment and explained. "Yeah, bye." Ichi-nose Yuki nodded obediently and waved her little hand. "Bye." Seeing her action, the other 3 hot girls, who were originally more playful, immediately learned to wave their little hands. 4 beautiful hot girls, each with their own merits, stood together and waved goodbye, which was also a very eye-catching scene in this early morning subway station. "Let's go, let's go." After saying goodbye, they got on the subway. Watching them get on the subway until the iron gate closed, Kurosawa Hikari never left until the train left. Finally, after bidding farewell to Xiaoyuki, Kurosawa Hikaru finally breathed a sigh of relief. Although the date mission was completed last night, for him, the formal separation was the real end. This feeling was like a relief, and it was like a lifetime ago. Because before yesterday, his life had always been a boring life with 3 points. Going to school, going home, working part-time, there would be no extra entertainment, and he was full of thoughts about studying. But last night, he experienced his first date in his life, and it was with a hot girl JK, multiple dates, and the process was very thrilling. This experience is really rare. After standing for a while, Kurosawa Hikaru turned around and went to other platforms to take other subways. Because he had plenty of time and his residence was not very remote, Kurosawa Hikaru first went home to change his clothes and tidy up his clothes. He arrived at school at only 8:10. The University of Tokyo does not have a school uniform, but in terms of clothing, it is still formal, at least it cannot be a vulgar outfit. Kurosawa Hikaru's outfit is very simple, just a summer short-sleeved shirt and trousers, as well as a tie and a belt. Such formal wear, although rather restrained, can remind him of his self-awareness as a student. The University of Tokyo is located in the center of Tokyo, with a large campus and 2 campuses. They are the Komaba campus, where the majority of freshmen in the first and second years are located, and the Hongo campus, where senior students in the third and fourth years are located. In this huge campus, every student is a top student from all over the country. At around 8 o'clock, the campus was already quite deserted. It was not until 8:20 that Kurosawa Hikaru arrived at the teaching building of the Department of Economics. "Good morning, Senior Kurosawa." As he entered the teaching building, a freshman girl greeted him. Perhaps Kurosawa Hikaru is not very famous in the entire University of Tokyo, but he is still well known among the first and second year students in the Department of Economics. "Good morning." Kurosawa Hikaru returned the greeting and smile. "Senior Kurosawa is so handsome." After greeting, the junior girl was a little obsessed with Kurosawa Mitsuru as she watched him go away. "Don't think about Senior Kurosawa. He only has books in his eyes, not a girlfriend." The girl next to him, who was wearing glasses and looked a little literary, advised. "What if he is attracted to me?" Classmates from Shizuoka said that Senior Kurosawa has never been in a relationship since he was a child. When he was in high school, several school beauties confessed to him. Guess what the result was? None of them agreed. That was then, and this is now. Didn't you see how brightly Senior Kurosawa smiled at me? I think he is just smiling for business." Seeing her being obsessed with him, the girl pushed her glasses. While they were chatting, Kurosawa Mitsuru arrived at the classroom. As he entered the classroom, Kurosawa Mitsuru stood at the door and looked around, looking for a seat. The strange thing is that as his eyes passed by, the students who were chatting stopped talking and quieted down. Soon, Kurosawa Hikaru found a familiar face near the middle of the river and walked over. "Miyazaki, good morning." Kurosawa took his school bag and put it on the empty seat next to him and sat down. This man is Miyazaki Yuta, with short black hair and big black framed glasses. He looks very honest. He is a friend he met after attending Tokyo University and has a relatively good relationship with. "Kurosawa, are you in a bad mood?" Miyazaki Yuta waited for him to sit down, then lowered his head and asked in a low voice. "Why do you say that?" "I'm in a good mood." Kurosawa Hikaru was a little puzzled. "I dated a hot girl JK last night, and I hugged a beautiful girl this morning and planted a strawberry. I was in a good mood." "I'm in a good mood, so why are your eyes so fierce?" Miyazaki Yuta asked incomprehensibly. "Fierce?" Kurosawa Hikaru was stunned when he heard this. "It's like someone owes you money. Your eyes are fierce. I was really scared when you glanced at me just now." Finding that he had no self-awareness, Miyazaki Yuta nodded and said with certainty. Is there such a thing? Kurosawa Hikaru was a little stunned. Look at everyone's reaction. Miyazaki Yuta motioned him to look around. Hearing this, Kurosawa Hikaru looked at the students in the classroom again and found that everyone was peeking at this side. As he looked over, everyone turned their heads away or looked away, not daring to look at him. Is it because of the master-level archery? After noticing this abnormal situation, Kurosawa Hikaru suddenly thought of a possibility. Although he had no bow or arrow in his hand, his eyesight improved after receiving this reward, and he could see things more clearly and accurately capture other people's movements and existence. In fact, it was indeed the change brought about by the mastery of archery. Kurosawa Hikaru not only stood more upright and powerful, but also walked more neatly and powerfully. When he wanted to find something, his eyes would become very sharp. For others, being swept by his eyes was like being stared at by a bird of prey, giving people an inexplicable sense of danger and not daring to face it directly. I was dumped and I feel a little bad. I'm sorry for accidentally affecting everyone just now. Realizing this situation, Kurosawa Hikaru made a prompt decision, stood up and explained. His voice was steady, crisp, and powerful, resounding throughout the classroom. It's okay. It's okay. Hearing this apology, everyone shook their heads and didn't care at all. After all, that look and sight, although a little scary and frightening, but that's all. After apologizing loudly, Kurosawa Hikaru sat back in his original position. You are really a man of action. Seeing this, Miyazaki Yuta gave him a thumbs up. No, have you been dumped? Did you have a girlfriend before? After the praise, Miyazaki Yuta reacted and was immediately shocked. Really? Is Kurosawa dating someone? Dumped? Who dumped him? The other students in the classroom were also shocked. You know, in everyone's eyes, Kurosawa Hikaru is an excellent student with excellent character and handsome appearance, a fighter among the top students, and a super nerd who is not close to women. But now, Kurosawa Hikaru's apology has revealed a shocking news. This super nerd who is not close to women is not only in love, but also dumped. Tokyo's Most Affectionate. Author, Wodada Shuchu Wujin. Chapter 24. There were only 2 classes in the morning, and they ended quickly, ushering in the lunch break. Kurosawa, let's go eat. As the class ended, Miyazaki Yuta immediately invited. In school, if you don't even have a partner to eat with, it's a very sad thing. Okay. Kurosawa Hikaru nodded, and he usually teams up with him. But just as he stood up, a woman walked in from the front door of the classroom. She was a mature and beautiful iceberg beauty, wearing a short-sleeved white shirt, a tight skirt, high heels, black silk tights, a standard OL uniform suit, blue hair like a waterfall, tall and slender figure, looking very cold and dignified. Kurosawa, please come with me. The blue-haired beauty walked into the classroom and announced. Teacher Ninomiya called you, it seems that he heard the news. Do you want me to accompany you? When Miyazaki Yuta saw her appearance, he immediately felt something was wrong. This Ninomiya teacher, whose original name is Ninomiya Chizuru, is very beautiful, but she has a high position as a teacher. She has a cold personality and a vigorous and resolute style of doing things. It is difficult to get along with her. No need, you go to the cafeteria and wait for me. Kurosawa Mitsuru glanced at her, but he was calm and expected it. After that, Kurosawa stuffed the book into his school bag, picked it up and walked over. Soon, the two walked out of the classroom together. Along the way, their team was also eye-catching. Why are they together? It is probably because Kurosawa said this morning that he was dumped, and Ninomiya teacher knew about it. Does Ninomiya teacher still care about love? She probably doesn't bother to care about us, but Kurosawa is different. He is a super top student. Seeing this situation, Everyone was talking and watching the fun. Not long after, they arrived at the student guidance room, and no one was watching and talking anymore. Ninomiya Chizuru closed the door, walked to the table in the room, and stretched out his hand to Kurosawa Mitsuru, motioning him to sit down. "Kurosawa, do you know why I called you here this time?" As they sat down together, Ninomiya Chizuru folded her arms, sat with a gloomy face, and spoke. Her voice was very cold, crisp, pleasant, and magnetic. It was Xiaoyuyan. "Because I was dumped." Kurosawa Hikaru answered truthfully, and this was the only reason he could guess. After all, he didn't have much contact with this teacher on weekdays. The so-called teacher is a special position in Neon University. That is, after admission, there will be more than a dozen students assigned to a teacher, and the teacher's surname will be used to form the XXX group. You are one of the best students in the Ninomiya group, and even in this school. Although I have no right to interfere with the emotional relationship of students, the school sincerely hopes that you can focus on your studies and study for a master's degree and a doctorate. Ninomiya Chizuru nodded slightly, without saying much nonsense, and got straight to the point. "Teacher Ninomiya, I have completely broken up with her, and I will not abandon my studies," Kurosawa Hikaru promised without being polite. "I'm relieved if you can say that." When Ninomiya Chizuru heard this, her gloomy face brightened up a little. "Thank you for your trouble." Kurosawa Hikaru sat up straight, and his attitude was even more serious. After all, university is university, different from high school and junior high school. He felt that this was not a big problem. In this case, the formal talks will end here. Yes. Hearing this, Kurosawa Hikaru wanted to get up immediately. "Before letting you go, I have a few more questions to ask you at this time," Ninomiya Chizuru spoke. "Please go ahead." Hearing this, Kurosawa Hikaru sat back down. "You said you were dumped. How long have you been dating?" Ninomiya Chizuru waited until he came back to sit and continued to ask. "Half a month." "Who is the other party?" It's not convenient to say. Kurosawa Hikaru thought about it, but he didn't report the name of Ikaritsu Muji Kaoru. "Is your identity very sensitive?" "That's not the case, but I don't think it's necessary." "She's very beautiful." "She's the campus belle of another university." "Compared to me? Who's prettier?" "Of course it's Ninomiya-sensei." Kurosawa Hikaru was stunned when he heard this, and was a little surprised by her questioning, but he still responded. This was a sincere word, not a flattering word. Although Ninomiya-sensei's strong personality and iceberg beauty were not his type, her appearance was really amazing. "How tall is she?" "About 1.7 meters, about the same height as you." "How old are you?" 21. 1 year older than you. "Do you like people who are older than you?" When Ninomiya Chizuru heard this age, her blue eyes moved, and then she asked. "That's not the case. It depends on chemistry and personality. Getting along well is more important." "What's her personality like?" "She's articulate, cheerful, enthusiastic, and has a high EQ." "Do you like enthusiastic girls?" "Teacher Ninomiya, she and I were just in an online relationship, and we've broken up." Faced with her constant questioning, Kurosawa Hikaru couldn't stand it and simply said. "This kind of question is too difficult to handle. The key is the way of asking. I always feel something is wrong." Online relationship. Ninomiya Chizuru was stunned when she heard this, and her icy face showed astonishment. "We just contacted each other through Line and interacted online. We haven't met yet." Kurosawa Hikaru thought she didn't understand and explained. "You haven't even met her in person, why are you still dating her?" Ninomiya Chizuru didn't understand. "Although we haven't met in person, we can video chat." "You are dating her just through video chat? If you meet her in person and have a date, don't you want to get married?" After saying this, Kurosawa Hikaru didn't say anything, but fell into silence, because a line of panels appeared in front of him. Dating mission, amusement park trip with Ninomiya Chizuru. Mission objectives, meet at the amusement park, let her hold your arm for 5 minutes, make her heart beat 3 times, make her cry. Mission deadline, 72 hours. Date funds, entry-level musical instrument piano, entry-level painting skills, 72-hour trial card. Task rewards, entry-level musical instrument piano, entry-level painting skills, permanent. I ask so many questions because the school is very concerned about your sudden love affair. You also know that you are one of the best students in the school, and the school pays special attention to you. Because Kurosawa Hikaru was looking at the new task and fell silent, Ninomiya Chizuru waited for a while, and found that he was silent, and suddenly panicked a little, and explained. Teacher Ninomiya. The explanation is a cover-up. Kurosawa Hikaru realized that she might want to date him through the appearance of the new task, and said after thinking. What's wrong? Are you free this Saturday? Kurosawa Hikaru got straight to the point, and even stopped using honorifics. I should be free, right? The sudden change in attitude made Ninomiya Chizuru a little uncomfortable. Do you want to go to the amusement park with me? Amusement park? What do you do in that kind of place? Ninomiya Chizuru was puzzled. Go to the amusement park together? Is this a date invitation? Because I had made an appointment with my ex-girlfriend to go, but I was dumped suddenly. If I don't use the 2 tickets, it will be a waste. Kurosawa, I am your teacher out of professional self-respect, Ninomiya Chizuru said seriously. If the teacher is not free, then I will make an appointment with someone else. Seeing that she didn't agree, Kurosawa Hikaru immediately changed his attitude. That won't work, Ninomiya Chizuru suddenly raised his voice and was determined. In order to prevent you from being deceived by a strange woman and affecting your studies, I will go with you. With subconscious resistance, Ninomiya Chizuru realized her own loss of composure, so she sat back on the chair with her arms folded, fiddled with her long hair with her hands, and added calmly. 2 more updates are here, and I still ask for votes and collections. Tokyo's Most Affectionate. Author, Wodada Shuchu Wujin. Chapter 25. Where do we meet on Saturday? What time? Seeing her compulsively calm posture, Kurosawa Hikaru did not tease her, but just pursued the victory to settle the matter. You decide. As a passive party, Ninomiya Chizuru had no plan. Then I'll send you a message via line later. Kurosawa nodded and didn't ask any more questions. In the relationship between men and women, the man should not be too accommodating to the other party. Only by taking the initiative can he get along with each other more equally. He was a little happy to have settled the matter. Regardless of the difficulty of the task goal, the first step is critical, and that is to start dating. Let me make it clear first, I am just going to the amusement park with you, not on a date. Ninomiya Chizuru saw the smile on his lips and couldn't help but said. Isn't it a date? Kurosawa Hikaru spoke suddenly in front of this arrogant person who wanted to hide his secrets. Of course not, we are teachers and students. Ninomiya Chizuru nodded heavily and said firmly. But on weekends, when a man and a woman go to an amusement park, isn't that just a date? Kurosawa Hikaru folded his hands on the table, looked at her delicate face, and asked. Dating is based on the premise that each other thinks that the other person is of the opposite sex. Going to the amusement park with you is like an adult taking a child. How can it be considered a date? Ninomiya Chizuru firmly denied this statement. Where are adults and children? Kurosawa Hikaru considered the statement, and then smiled. Ninomiya-sensei is not much older than me, right? He is only 28 this year, and the 8-year gap is not yet big enough for adults and children. Difference. At just this age, he can become a teacher at Tokyo University, which shows the excellence of Mr. Ninomiya. In fact, Ninomiya-sensei is also the youngest official teacher in the school. It's not about age, it's about perception. You are just a child in my eyes. Seeing the smile on his lips, Ninomiya Chizuru took on the stern attitude of a teacher with a straight face. Even if the teacher doesn't agree, I still want to say that I'm looking forward to my date with the teacher this Saturday. Let's go now. Seeing that she was tough talking, Kurosawa didn't force her, so he stood up and said. After that, he didn't give the other party a chance to continue to defend himself, and left quickly. Ninomiya Chizuru, who was sitting there, saw the door being closed and was silent for a while, lost in thought. Am looking forward to? What does he mean? Do you really want to date me? Thinking of this, she couldn't help but frown. You are a little kid but a big kid. When I was in junior high school, you were still in kindergarten. After thinking for a while, Ninomiya Chizuru stood up neatly and said to herself. Immediately, she reached out to fiddle with her long blue hair, straightened her appearance, stepped on her high heels, and walked out of the room confidently and calmly. On the other side, Kurosawa Hikaru walked out of the student guidance room and headed towards the cafeteria. How's it going? What did Ninomiya-sensei tell you? But he hadn't gone far, and as soon as he reached the corner, Yoda Miyazaki walked out. Obviously, he did not go to the cafeteria alone, but decided to wait here. She said I shouldn't be distracted by love and should focus on my studies, because I was very angry about being in love. She also said the school really cared about it. Seeing his loyalty, Kurosawa smiled and spread his hands. After all, he is the best second-year student in the economics department. He can alarm the school if he falls in love. Hearing this statement, Miyazaki Yoda couldn't help but sigh. I think she's exaggerating. Kurosawa Hikaru was a little suspicious. The school didn't care about this at all, but teacher Ninomiya was particularly concerned. What's a pity is that the system doesn't see the favorability function, so he still can't make a conclusion on this matter. Is there any punishment? No. After all, what's the status of your relationship? Yoda Miyazaki felt relieved and immediately felt speechless. This Kurosawa was too unloyal and didn't even talk about being in love until he was dumped. It feels like someone is telling you the ending before the story even begins, which is very uncomfortable. I won't talk much about a failed relationship. Regarding this matter, Kurosawa Hikaru did not want to express any further opinions. It's not something worth showing off, and it's not something worth talking about. Even though this ex-girlfriend has a very bad character and is a female Neptune, her quality is not so low that she has to complain and complain to others. We broke up when we broke up. Anyway, he didn't give anything material in this relationship, it was just a sincere and wrongful payment. Reveal a little, who is the other party? Is it from our subject? Tell me a little bit. Miyazaki Yoda is very persistent, and his curiosity is almost killing him. All I can say is, she's beautiful. Realizing that he was unwilling to give up and wanted to know some information, Kurosawa Hikaru thought for a while and said. He wasn't loyal before, because he hadn't shown up yet, so he didn't tell anyone. How beautiful. Pretty as a school belle. Could it be that the person you are talking about is Mickey, a junior from the literature club? Miyazaki Yoda suddenly lost his composure after hearing this statement. Speaking of the campus beauty of Tokyo University, it is definitely Miki Shiraha from the Faculty of Letters. This junior student Miki is very beautiful and super cute. As soon as she showed up at the freshman assembly, she was named the #1 school beauty. Last year's school beauty was immediately overwhelmed in front of her. She was both talented and beautiful. No. Kurosawa Hikaru shook his head. He didn't even know that Miki Sr. From other schools. It seems that it won't be someone I know. Yoda Miyazaki couldn't help but feel regretful. Because his appearance is not very outstanding, and because Dongda focuses on academics, he has never participated in any social groups, and he doesn't know much about girls from other schools. The two people walked together, walking out of the economics department building and heading to the cafeteria. In the cafeteria, Kurosawa Hikaru bought a pork cutlet rice bowl and Miyazaki Yoda a curry rice, and finally sat down in an empty space. The number of students at Dongda is not very large, but the area is very large, so the place is quite empty. Could your ex-girlfriend be your tutor, right? I remember you said that the student you tutored was a super beautiful senior JK. As he sat down, Yoda Miyazaki suddenly thought of a possibility. Don't talk nonsense, I'm her teacher. Kurosawa Hikaru didn't expect that he hadn't turned the page yet, so he was speechless and said angrily. As a tutor, he earns an hourly salary of 20,000 yen, and it is a time when his future is bright. Even though he is a tutor and not a formal teacher, the students he is responsible for teaching are indeed very beautiful, but even so, they are still students. Makes sense. Yoda Miyazaki thought about it and nodded in agreement. Although he is a tutor, he does not hesitate to ruin his career and reputation. For a smart person, it is a choice that outweighs the gains and losses. As he nodded, Kurosawa Hikaru, who was eating pork chop rice, suddenly stopped. Because he seemed to have said something very similar just now. Kurosawa, I am your teacher. He has only been a part-time teacher for more than a year. Faced with this situation, he will subconsciously draw a clear line. Don't let others misunderstand him. What about teacher Ninomiya? You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Tokyo's Most Affectionate. Author, Wodada Shuchu Wujin. Chapter 26. Mission goal, make her heart beat 3 times, times 0/3. Is it true, just now I deliberately lured my nature towards a date, and even said that I was looking forward to it, but she wasn't interested at all. Kurosawa Hikaru glanced at the mission panel, and his heart sank. In fact, he was just thinking about it. His date with Xiaoyuki yesterday might have been a novice mission. Whether it is the mission goal, the mission object, or even the mission funds and rewards, they are all just right, allowing him to perform as he pleases. After all, Xiaoyuki came to her on her own initiative, hoping that he would pretend to be her boyfriend, and he was in a difficult situation. From the beginning, his appearance was of the nature of a hero saving a beauty, making it easier to gain favor. Although it sounds a bit arrogant, in theory, his success rate in chasing Xiaoyuki is as high as 99.87%. It can be said that the possibility of failure is extremely low. In the final analysis, it is because of the abilities, identities, statuses, and even economics of both parties that he has the upper hand. It can be said to be a dimensionality reduction blow. In front of him, Xiaoyuki could only show off her appearance and youth. However, the target of this mission is Chizuru Ninomiya, the youngest female teacher at Tokyo University, a versatile female PhD in finance who has rational thinking and is able to weigh pros and cons. Although what she said just now sounds like something only a tsundere would say, it is the truth. This time the funds for the mission changed from 1 type to 2, which essentially revealed a signal that the difficulty of the mission was increasing. This is indeed the case. The mission objectives this time have become 4, and the locations have been designated. The time limit has even been increased to 72 hours. Although the amusement park is not difficult to complete as a date location, the other 3 tasks, hold arms for 5 minutes, my heart beats 3 times, make her cry, are all difficult. Putting aside these visible difficulties, the most difficult one is Ninomiya-sensei's opinion. He must change teacher Ninomiya's view of him, not as a student or a child, but as the opposite sex. Miyazaki, thank you for reminding me. After returning to his thoughts, Kurosawa Hikaru felt a wave of fear, raised his head and looked at Yoda Miyazaki opposite, and said immediately. Thanks to Miyazaki's words just now, he woke up. Because yesterday's date with Xiaoyuki went so smoothly, coupled with the system's rewards and draws, he felt a little distracted today. After the date mission appeared, I didn't think too much about it. From the beginning, I felt that I could definitely complete the mission, and even directly focused on the mission reward. An arrogant soldier will be defeated. This principle has existed since ancient times and can be described as a truth. What did I remind you of? Miyazaki Yoda felt confused when he heard this sudden thank you. Then leave it alone. Kurosawa Hikaru did not explain the reason, but after prevaricating, he ate pork chop rice and fell into thinking. This date is not like yesterday, a novice task that can be completed while laughing and playing. He must correct his mentality and think carefully and carefully. The key to this date is to get her to change her perspective, stop treating me as a student, and blur the boundaries between teacher and student, but how to do that? Taking this as a direction, Kurosawa Hikaru began to think divergently and consider countermeasures. Kurosawa Hikaru only had one class in the afternoon, and it ended at 2 o'clock. Although he was busy with appointments, he still concentrated on studying in class. After all, there is no limit to learning. Kurosawa, are you going to work as a tutor today as usual? As the course ended, Miyazaki Yoda also took other elective courses. He stood up and packed his school bag and also asked. Yes, Kurosawa nodded. What school do you think the candidate you are tutoring plans to apply to? Is it possible for him to become our junior schoolmate next year? Miyazaki Yoda realized that he was not really unsociable with women, and would still consider falling in love. The impulse that he had suppressed for a long time completely exploded today. He had wanted to talk to Kurosawa about women a long time ago. Unfortunately, because Kurosawa had always shown a disinterested attitude, he gradually restrained this behavior. Yes, and it's 100%. Her goal is Tokyo University, otherwise her parents wouldn't have paid so much to hire me. Kurosawa Hikaru nodded with certainty. If she is admitted to Tokyo University, who will be the #1 school beauty between her and Miki? Then it depends on everyone's perspective. Kurosawa Hikaru thought about it and decided not to comment on his appearance. Both Miki-senpai and his students are rare and beautiful girls. It can only be said that they each have their own merits. What's the name of this school girl? Let's get to know her in advance, Yoda Miyazaki asked curiously. The future of Sci-fi. This name is so cool. Do you think it's possible for me to catch her? Yoda Miyazaki thought this last name was very cool and immediately joked. No way, absolutely impossible. Kurosawa Hikaru glanced at him and shook his head. You don't have to hit people like this, do you? Finding that his attitude was very decisive, Miyazaki Yoda was a little depressed. She is the rich daughter of a large financial group. She has a strict tutor. It is extremely difficult to be with her. Let's not talk about other things. Just being a good match can kill 99% of men. The rich lady, Sci-fi, could she be the eldest lady of the Maple Forest Consortium? You've got it? Kurosawa, you are too good, aren't you? You can be a tutor for such a rich lady. She has many tutors, I am just one of them, specializing in tutoring her in homework and study. Kurosawa Hikaru stood up and packed his school bag, not thinking he was that good. He only tutors twice a week, on Tuesday and Thursday, starting at 4:30 p.m. and ending at 10:30 p.m., with an hour break in between. Just for such a part-time job, he has a salary of 240,000 every week, close to 1 million a month. Such a generous salary and a job that is so good that there is nothing to say have given him a sense of professional ethics, and he has never had any extra thoughts about the future rich lady of Shifunjayuan. There are many tutors, how many are there? As far as I know, there are dance, violin, tea ceremony, art. As for weekend tutors, I don't know. With so many teachers, Wouldn't it mean that there are classes every day? So the rich lady is not as happy as imagined. Kurosawa Hikaru shrugged. To be honest, he felt pity for the child Shifunjayuan Mirai. Indeed, I'll go first, I still have a class. Miyazaki Yuta was very satisfied with this chat, calculated the time and started walking. Go, I'll go home to prepare for class first. Kurosawa Hikaru nodded. Today is a part-time job, and he has to face it seriously. The part-time job with such a high salary is his most important source of income at present, so he can't slack off. 2 more are sent, please do everything. Tokyo's Most Affectionate. Author, Wodada Shuchu Wujin. Chapter 27. At 4:15 p.m., Kurosawa Hikaru took the subway to a high-end apartment in the city center. He swiped his card at the entrance on the first floor to enter the apartment, and then swiped his card again to take the elevator to the corresponding 32nd floor. As soon as he walked out of the elevator, a woman was already waiting at the door. This was a beautiful woman in a maid outfit, with short hair, tall figure, and straight posture. On her beautiful face, the calm and indifferent eyes made her look serious and capable. Kurosawa Hikaru knew who she was, the future maid of Shifunjayuan, Akai Sayaka. Miss Akai, I'm Kurosawa Hikaru here to tutor. Kurosawa Hikaru took out a card and a skull bag and handed them to her to show her purpose. Akai Sayaka took the card and looked at it. There was a name and a photo on it. Then she opened the skull bag to check and confirmed that there were no dangerous items such as knives. She looked at Kurosawa Hikaru again. This look was scrutinizing, from top to bottom, as if scanning. What's wrong? Kurosawa Hikaru was a little puzzled when he found that her inspection and review today took longer than usual. Logically speaking, he has been a tutor for more than a year, so he is considered an old acquaintance. Please come in. After carefully examining him, Sayaka Akai shook her head slightly, gave him the things back, and made way. After taking back his things, Kurosawa Hikaru didn't think much about it, and walked forward. Sayaka Akai, who was following behind, saw his steady and powerful steps, his shoulders did not waver at all, and his straight back, and was thoughtful. Such steps, as well as his straight and upright posture, are not something that ordinary people can do, and they must be strictly trained. In fact, it is difficult for ordinary people to keep their bodies absolutely straight and upright, because walking with your head held high is actually quite tiring. As for the steps without any wavering shoulders, it is even more impossible. Why does it look different from Tuesday? Holding such doubts, Sayaka Akai was suspicious and decided to observe more today. The future residence of Shifunjayuan is a large duplex flat. Because this luxury apartment was built by Fenglin Group, it is equipped with a separate elevator and 2 floors for renovation. It may not be a villa, but in the center of Tokyo where every inch of land is valuable, it is still a luxurious mansion that is unimaginable. The decoration inside the house is magnificent, with famous paintings, antiques, and all kinds of things arranged just right, which is very luxurious. After being a tutor for more than a year, Kurosawa Hikaru is also familiar with the place and walked into the study. Please wait a moment, the eldest lady will be here soon, and what do you want to drink? Akai Sayaka, who was following behind, said at the door. A glass of ice water. Kurosawa Hikaru carried his skull bag, took a chair, and put it in front of the desk. This study is very large, even larger than the living room, with many bookshelves and many books. The smell of paper and books is light, and it smells like being in a library. For people who like to study and read, it is a great smell. After arranging the position, Kurosawa Hikaru sat down, opened his skull bag, and took out something. Knock knock. Not long after, there was a knock on the door. Kurosawa Hikaru heard the approaching footsteps and stood up to look. The person knocking on the door was Akai Sayaka, standing by the door. Then, a girl with long black hair in a white dress walked in from her side. Miss Shifunjayuan. Seeing her appear, Kurosawa Hikaru also greeted her with a proper posture. For this greeting, Shifunjayuan Mirai just nodded slightly, and then walked over. Her skin was white and delicate, showing a cold white color, her black hair was like a waterfall and delicate, her hands and feet were very slender, she stood straight, had an oval face, a straight and small nose, and slender eyebrows. She looked very beautiful. The most eye-catching thing was her pair of red eyes that were as beautiful as rubies, but indifferent and calm, adding a bit of noble and mature temperament to her every move. Such a girl, unlike ordinary high school students, is full of youth, but has a maturity that does not match her age, and is high above and keeps people away from her. She has practiced archery. Seeing her, Kurosawa Hikaru had a new discovery unlike in the past. Because of the permanent reward of mastery-level archery, although he has not touched a bow and arrow so far, he has a lot of knowledge and cognition in his mind. In addition, his body has automatically adapted and developed muscle memory. In short, although he has never touched a bow and arrow, he is an archery master and his eyesight has also improved. That's why he can see at a glance that Shifunjayuan Mirai's footsteps are one of the archery postures. What class is today? Shifunjayuan Mirai walked to the desk, sat down and asked. Academic class. Kurosawa Hikaru pulled a chair and sat down. At the same time, Akai Sayaka took out the last document from the bookshelf next to her in order and put it on the desk. Shifunjayuan Mirai took it skillfully and opened the document. Inside was the homework assigned by Kurosawa Hikaru 2 days ago, and a notebook. This is today's course and direction, take a look first. Kurosawa Hikaru also pushed the book with 2 bookmarks in front of her. After the exchange, the two did not have any extra communication and just started reading. Kurosawa Hikaru was checking homework, while Shifunjayuan Mirai was reading to understand what class he had today. During this period, Akai Sayaka also walked out, and put down the tea that the two of them were going to drink with a tray, and then went to the back, standing there waiting and watching. As a bodyguard and maid, her duty is to help the young lady deal with all dangers and troubles. In addition, there is another important task, which is to prevent anyone from being alone with the young lady. Perfect, there is no mistake, Miss Shifunjayuan is really talented. The silence in the study lasted for half an hour, and Kurosawa Mitsuru finished the inspection. I'm done, let's start. Shifunjayuan Mirai also said. Have you learned to numbness? Finding that she had no reaction to the compliment, Kurosawa Mitsuru couldn't help thinking. In fact, he was not unfamiliar with this student, and he had known her for more than a year. It's just that before today, in addition to concentrating on work, he had no spare thoughts to pay attention to other things. To be more precise, he knew how busy and heavy Shifunjayuan's future studies were, but he chose to turn a blind eye. He didn't care about Shifunjayuan's future feelings and situation at all, but only cared about whether his work was smooth and up to standard. But at this moment, perhaps because he had the system, his mentality changed, and he began to pay more attention. Although he noticed this, Kurosawa Hikaru didn't say much, but started tutoring. After all, the maid Akai Sayaka was still standing behind to supervise. Whether his work performance was up to standard depended on the maid's report and evaluation, and he couldn't be passive. In terms of tutoring, both parties cooperated very well and it went very smoothly. Concentrating on learning, time passed quickly, and it was 6 o'clock in the blink of an eye. Even if you don't look at the watch, you can know the time, because Akai Sayaka will cook dinner on time. This is one of the few half hours when the maid will leave. Tokyo's Most Affectionate. Author, Wodada Shuchu Wujin. Chapter 28. Sayaka Akai walked out of the study and went directly to prepare dinner. Kurosawa Hikaru pricked up his ears and listened to the footsteps outside, but he waited until the maid walked away, then picked up the water on the table and drank it in one gulp. Rest. After drinking half a glass of water, Kurosawa leaned back and stretched. Rest. Saifunjayuan Mirai turned his head sideways, his beautiful eyes were calm and colorless, showing no emotions or thoughts. I've been quite tired these 2 days. Miss Akai is not here, so I need to take a rest first. Kurosawa Hikaru nodded and said matter-of-factly. It won't be your rest time until half an hour later. Saifunjayuan Mirai was a little dissatisfied with his stopping behavior. Don't be so rigid. If I take a rest, you will also take a rest. Kurosawa Hikaru spread his hands. In fact, he is not tired. On the contrary, because of the leg skills, archery, parkour and other things rewarded by the system, his body has become much stronger and his energy is high. The reason why he wanted to rest was just to let the student rest for a while. Besides, for a weekend date, he had an idea he wanted to test out. Hearing this statement, Saifunjayuan opened his mouth in the future, holding the pen in his hand tightly, hesitating and wavering. Rest, to her, was a very tempting word. Have you ever practiced archery? At this moment, Kurosawa Hikaru stretched out his hand and forcibly pulled the pen out of her hand. What do you want to do? When Saifunjayuan saw this in the future, he immediately waved his hand and forcibly stopped such contact. Even though her arms were very long and slender, she was very strong, but Kurosawa Hikaru didn't exert much force. Have you ever practiced archery? After taking away her pen and successfully making her stop studying, Kurosawa didn't do anything anymore, but looked at her hands. I have to say that her hands are very beautiful, even without embellishments like manicure, they still look good. The skin is delicate and white, and it is even more slender. At first glance, it looks like hands that are pampered and cared for regularly. Without a pen in his hand, Sifenun froze for a moment, not comfortable with it. Her life is planned by time. What kind of time and what kind of things should be done have been decided long ago. Just like this, the sudden break, which was beyond the planned and expected time, left her a little at a loss. I see there are marks between your fingers. They are marks from pressing arrows for a long time. Seeing that she remained silent, Kurosawa's eyes scanned between her fingers. What day of the week did you practice archery? As far as I know, you practiced dancing on Monday, school on Tuesday, violin on Wednesday, school on Thursday, and tea ceremony on Friday. Finding that she still didn't speak, Kurosawa continued to ask. Seeing him nagging in the future, Saifunjayuan simply ignored him and waited for him to stop. Where did you practice archery? Here. How much rest time do you have every week? Let's talk. Don't you feel bored if you don't say a word during the break? The time we can chat is less than half an hour. Kurosawa Hikaru felt helpless. I don't have time to rest. Saifunjayuan Mirai finally spoke up. I will tutor you in your studies. Between 6:30 and 7:30, doesn't it count as a break? Kurosawa Hikaru paused after hearing this, feeling sad and a little surprised at the same time. For him, it was a break from his part-time job at home. It doesn't count. Saifunjayuan Future said calmly. Why? You only need 10 minutes to eat, and then don't you stay in your room for 50 minutes, Kurosawa Hikaru was curious. He suddenly realized that although he had known the student for more than a year, he knew very little about him. In those 50 minutes, you should apply body lotion, do daily flexibility stretches, and finally take a shower. Shifunjin Mirai's red eyes stared closely at Kurosawa Hikaru. Why are you staring at me? Relax. Sensing her direct gaze, Kurosawa comforted him. I'm wondering what kind of tricks you are playing. You are getting paid to tutor me in my studies. If you are so passive and sabotage, if my mother finds out, you will be fired. Sifenun didn't care about his appearance in the future and just said calmly. There is absolutely no way that she has anything to do with this teacher. When her college entrance examination is over, this teacher will disappear from his side, and a new stage of teacher will be ushered in, just like before. If you don't tell me, if I don't tell you, how will your mother know if Miss Akai is not here? Of course Kurosawa Hikaru knew this, but he wasn't worried at all. This room is under surveillance. She will find out if she checks it. After hearing this, Sifenuen turned his head and looked at the wall in the future. Kurosawa Hikaru followed his gaze and was surprised when he saw a surveillance camera in the corner of the bookshelf. The next moment, he was no longer sitting lazily, but straightened up and bowed his head in front of the table. You didn't tell me earlier that there was surveillance. Kurosawa Hikaru picked up the notebook again, pretended, and spoke in a low voice. I thought you already knew. Seeing that he was suddenly startled, the corners of Sifenjayuan Marai's mouth curved in an imperceptible arc. So you were silent just now because you just couldn't understand why I was still slacking off even though I knew there was surveillance. Kurosawa Hikaru's eyesight was very sharp, and he noticed her gloating smile, and suddenly he understood a lot of things. Yes, Sifenjayuan Marai picked up the pen again. Is your mother a control freak? Not only does she have a maid to supervise, but she also installed surveillance. Kurosawa Hikaru was speechless. To be honest, although he has been teaching for more than a year, he really didn't notice the surveillance, and the camera was quite hidden. In the final analysis, it was because he took it for granted that Akai Sayaka's supervision was the only surveillance. This is to avoid accidents when I am alone with others when the maid leaves. What accidents can there be? This is the desire for control. When your teacher, ID card, residence, mobile phone, and even your hometown, all your information is investigated clearly, and if you dare to endanger your safety, you will not be able to escape no matter where you go. Then you just took my pen. By the way, it's because you are too stupid and don't know there is surveillance. Sitting at the table and pretending, Sifenjayuan Marai became more talkative and talked more. In the final analysis, it was because Kurosawa Hikaru's behavior of forcibly taking her pen just now became a handle. As long as she tells her mother that this teacher is not teaching seriously, combined with the surveillance evidence, he will be fired. I just took your pen and didn't hurt you. Kurosawa Hikaru was confident. He had thought carefully before taking action. If this is considered as harm, it would be exaggerated. How come there is no harm? Where is the harm? My body is not injured, but it has caused very serious harm to my young mind. You are too much. Not at all, you scared me. So timid. You are too tough. Kurosawa Hikaru wanted to refute this statement, but he didn't know how to say it. It seemed that this was indeed the truth. Just now, he saw this young lady, who was numb and motionless, so he took coercive measures. Nothing to say, right? Sifenjayuan Marai saw him choking, and raised the corners of his mouth with a little smile, with a look of victory. 2 more are sent, please recommend votes, so few. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Tokyo's Most Affectionate. Author, Wodada Shuchu Wujin. Chapter 29. At 6:30, when the door was knocked and pushed open, it was time for dinner. This is not only dinner time in the future of Shifunjin, but also Kurosawa Hikaru. However, they did not sit at the same table, but were separated. The dishes for dinner were all made by Sayaka Akai. Kurosawa Hikaru was sitting at a table in the living room, eating beef rice bowl. This is his regular meal. At first it was Western food such as steak, but it was okay to eat it once or twice occasionally, but if he ate too much, he couldn't get used to it at all. He simply made a request: beef rice bowl, pork chop rice bowl, and spicy curry rice rotation. After finishing dinner within 10 minutes, it was time for him to take a break. The best way to get closer is to keep a unique secret between two people. This method is correct. Kurosawa Hikaru sat on the sofa, took out his mobile phone, opened Line, and looked at teacher Ninamiya's name, lost in thought. Today he wanted to let Sifan take a rest in the future, not only because he was worried about whether she would be too tired, but also because he was worried about her. His relationship with Shifunjin Mirai is that of teacher and student, just like he and Ninamiya-sensei are. How to blur the boundaries between teachers and students is what he cares about most at the moment. If you grasp the other person's secret, you will unknowingly let go of your guard. Pondering this idea, Kurosawa Hikaru played with his phone and thought secretly. A normal adult would never have feelings for a child. If there are differences in status, or even binding principles, distance will be maintained to a great extent. If he wants to complete his current task, he needs to make a lot of efforts. The mission lasts for 72 hours and ends at noon on Sunday. In fact, he didn't have that much time to act. It is difficult to achieve any of these mission goals through the distance between the mobile phone and the status in school. The real place where he can show off his talents is on a date at an amusement park. Rest time is over soon. As 7:30 arrived, two people came down the stairs on the second floor. The leader is Sayaka Akai, still in the same maid outfit, looking informal and smiling. However, the future appearance of Shifunjin attracted Kurosawa Hikaru's attention. She changed into a pink dress. She had just come out of the bath. Her long black hair was scattered like a waterfall, with a little moisture, and her skin was even more supple and moving. However, her expression and eyes were no longer cold and ruthless, as if she was rejecting people thousands of miles away. The moment she appeared, she was looking at Kurosawa Hikaru, as if expecting his reaction. This expectant reaction made Kurosawa Hikaru a little concerned, and even more surprised. He felt that she was particularly cute, as if he had seen another side of her. The effect of the small talk just now was very obvious. The gap between the two parties was eliminated a lot, and the relationship became closer. "Mr. Kurosawa, it's time to continue class." The two people walked down the winding stairs, and Sayaka Akai greeted them. "Good." Kurosawa nodded, stood up, straightened his clothes, and followed them to the study. Soon, Kurosawa Hikaru and Shifunjin Mirai sat at the table again, while the maid stayed behind. The class continued, and Kurosawa Hikaru began to teach with the same attitude as in the afternoon, serious and calm. "Look at the examples I wrote." After talking like this for a while, he entered the state. Kurosawa Hikaru's writing hand wrote down the content on his notebook and pushed it in front of her. Sifan glanced down in the future, then suddenly raised his eyes to look at him. Because what is written in the notebook is indeed an example question, but there is a sentence below the example question: "Today's clothes are quite cute." For a moment, Sifan Mirai's heartbeat began to accelerate. This is not a heartbeat, but an unprecedented stimulation. Is he so bold? The maid was behind, but she still dared to do such a little trick. If this sentence is discovered, this guy's career will be ruined. What does he want to do? Do you understand? Kurosawa Hikaru tilted his head slightly and spoke with a smile in his eyes. "I understand. Take a look." Sifan took a pen and wrote something in his notebook. "In the future, you don't have to say that, the key is that people are cute." "I've never seen you wearing anything like this before." Kurosawa continued to write. "This is a nightgown. I want to see how you react." Boom 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 boom, my heart is racing. "Be careful, you are a teacher." "Even though I am a teacher, I am also a man." "How dare you say that?" The two of them just turned their backs to the maid and started passing notes and chatting face to face. Relax, study requires a balance between work and rest. After chatting for a while, Kurosawa felt that she was still not active enough. Seeing this sentence, Sifan glanced sideways at him in the future, and then wrote, "I am not wearing underwear." Seeing this reply, Kurosawa Hikaru subconsciously glanced sideways at her chest. This pink dress is very simple and has a relatively monotonous design, but the fabric is light and fluttering and clings to the body, easily highlighting the body lines. This girl is in a vacuum. So horny you don't really think I'm naked, do you? Sensing his gaze, Sifan Marai raised the corners of his mouth, wrote a sentence, and tapped it with his pen. You're awesome. Realizing that she was still wearing something and that there was no mystery at all, Kurosawa breathed a sigh of relief and then wrote down a sentence. From this point of view, this eldest lady has been suppressed by family control for a long time. Once she releases the pressure and lets go, she is not an ordinary crazy person. Don't just chat, we have to give lectures. Successfully tugging at his heartstrings, Sifan Jayuan's future competitiveness was satisfied, reminding him. Although such small actions are fun, exciting and interesting, if they are exposed, it will be over. Kurosawa nodded, pulled the notebook back, turned a page, and began to teach her. As a student of Dongda University, he is a super academic. He teaches very seriously and has unique learning skills and problem-solving ideas. Mr. Kurosawa, it's 10:30, today's class ends here first. Immersed in learning, with the reminder from Sayakakai, the end came. Good. Kurosawa Hikaru was actually paying attention to the progress of time and had a plan for explaining the homework, but there was no problem that he couldn't finish. How do you feel about today's class, miss? As Kurosawa Hikaru stood up and packed his things, the maid also asked. Not bad, keep it up. Sifan sat in the same seat in the future with a calm attitude, giving people a feeling of superiority, but such comments were the same as usual. The difference is that she would not have said this before to maintain this state. Obviously she enjoyed the short rest time. Thank you Miss Shifanjayuan for your approval. After hearing this comment, Kurosawa Hikaru said with a smile. This is today's pay. After leaving the study, Sayakakai walked to the elevator with Kurosawa Hikari, then took out an envelope with the word Kurosawa written on it and handed it to him. This is a day's salary, working part-time for 6 hours, totaling 120,000 yen. Kurosawa Hikaru took the envelope, said goodbye to her and left. Tokyo's Most Affectionate. Author, Wodada Shuchu Wujin. Chapter 30. Taking the night subway, Kurosawa Hikaru returned home. It was already 10:50. After returning home, he took a shower, put on light home clothes, and sat on the bed. Take out your phone and open lines skillfully. Unlike the past month, where all the messages were from his ex-girlfriend, this time the sender was Xiaoyuki. I'm off work. Kurosawa Hikaru sent her a message. Thank you for getting off work so late. You asked me to send you a message, what's wrong? Brother Guang, are you free on Saturday? Aoi and the others want to have another multiple date. Sorry, I'm busy on Saturday. Alright. Brother Hikaru, can you video chat? After exchanging messages for a while, Yuki Ichino's couldn't help but ask. In response to this inquiry, Kurosawa Hikaru responded by requesting a video call. In less than a second, the video was connected. Brother Guang, good evening. On the screen of the mobile phone, the appearance of Yuki Ichino's appeared. She had already taken a shower, without makeup, and waved hello. Good evening, you look very happy. What good thing happened today? Kurosawa Hikaru saw that she was not depressed because of being rejected for multiple dates, but was smiling all over her face. He responded curiously. Actually, it's like this. There is swimming class today, and many girls saw the strawberries you planted. That's it, Kurosawa Hikaru didn't quite understand. Seeing that he didn't understand, Xiaoyuki explained seriously. Of course, although some girls subconsciously thought that I was playing tricks, Lan saw it and asked me if it was the strawberries you planted. Because of this, everyone knew that I had a college boyfriend who I had been dating for almost 2 years. There are a lot less rumors. This is indeed something to be happy about. Realizing that the rumors attacking her had decreased, Kurosawa immediately understood and was happy for her. Brother Guang, you said you have something to do on Saturday. What is it? Are you at work? Xiaoyuki chuckled, and then asked curiously. No, Kurosawa shook his head. At this moment, Xiaoyuki changed the topic and casually guessed, could it be that you have a date with another girl? When she asked him this question, Kurosawa Hikaru suddenly felt guilty. Although she pretended not to care, her gesture was like that of a girlfriend who was checking and suspicious. But in fact, they are not a couple at all, they are just pretending to be lovers for a while, and friends with a little intimate contact. I have something to discuss with the teacher. Even so, Kurosawa Hikaru still didn't tell the truth. Oh. When talking about the teacher, Ichino's Yuki's little face suddenly lost interest. As a poor student, she was not interested in these things at all. I can't go on a date with you, so what will you do on Saturday? Kurosawa Hikaru asked curiously when he realized that he didn't have time to accompany her. Then I'll do a part-time job. I won't play with Aoi and the others this time. You have a part-time job on Saturday, and you plan to go on multiple dates. Kurosawa Hikaru was a little surprised. You can postpone your part-time job for one day. I'll work overtime on Sunday to finish it. So that's it? Brother Guang, are you not coming on Saturday because you don't like multiple dates? It's not that I don't like it, it's just that it's troublesome to have more people, and I really have something to do. Kurosawa Hikaru thought about it, but he didn't reject it. If he and Xiaoyuki were dating alone, he wouldn't have to act so hard. That Sunday, are you free? Realizing his opinion, Yuki Ichino's hesitated for a moment and then asked. I'm free on Sunday afternoon. Kurosawa Hikaru calculated that the date mission with Mr. Ninomiya would be over by noon. You said before that the next date will be just the two of us, when will it be? After confirming that he had time, Yuki Ichino's was a little hesitant, but still mustered up the courage to ask. This is an invitation to go on a date. For girls, it takes more courage. Following these words, a few lines of words appeared in front of Kurosawa Hikaru. Date mission, a trip to the seaside with Yuki Ichino's. Mission goal, meet at the beach, help her apply sunscreen to 90% of her body area, hug her in the sea for 1 minute, make her heart beat 3 times. Task duration, 72 hours. Dating funds, entry-level swimming, entry-level surfing, 72-hour experience card. Mission rewards, entry-level swimming, entry-level surfing, permanent. Sure enough, the previous date was a novice mission with few goals and few rewards. Speaking of which, is this dating fund targeted? The current number is still too small, it remains to be seen. Just this Sunday. Since this was not his first time watching the mission, Kurosawa Hikaru finished it quickly and spoke. Okay, then where are we going? After holding his breath and waiting for the agreement, Ichino's Yuki smiled happily and asked immediately. The weather is so hot, let's go to the beach. Looking at her bright and beautiful smile, Kurosawa Hikaru pretended to think for a moment and then suggested. I haven't been there for a long time. Let's go to the beach. Hearing this location, Ichino's Yuki nodded without hesitation. Maybe there are some girls who don't want to go to the beach when going on a date, in order to avoid their makeup falling off and their figure not being good enough. But she was not afraid at all. After all, she often worked out to be a print model, so she had a good figure and looked good without makeup. Can you swim? To be on the safe side, Kurosawa Hikaru asked first. If you take a landlubber to the beach, you have to be more careful. A little, but not much. Can you swim? Beginner level. Beginner again, you are not really good at swimming, are you saying that on purpose? Ichino's Yuki, who had been fooled once, said coquettishly. Tell the truth, Kurosawa Hikaru shrugged. In fact, before the dating fund appeared, he could swim, but he had not received professional training. He just went to the reservoir and the river to play in his previous life. Because he has been busy with his studies in this life, he has not swum for more than 20 years. Although he had swimming lessons before, he had privileges because of his excellent grades, so he could read books beside him even in class. Then it's settled. What time will we meet on Sunday? Ichinose Yuki smiled and didn't dwell on it. Instead, she began to finalize the date. 1:30 p.m. As for the location, you decide. Okay. The two chatted for half an hour and ended the video call. Another date task. Fortunately there is no conflict in time, and the task objectives are not difficult. Kurosawa Hikaru put down his phone, looked at the task again, and said to himself. Ichinose Yuki on the other side, after the video call ended, did not speak. She held the phone tightly against her chest, her heart beating fast, and she felt extremely excited. Unlike the previous multiple dates, this time it was a single date, and it was at the beach. If you like it, please comment casually, even if it's just a squeak, it would be nice to give me some feedback.